A show where the mysteries of megabytes shall
Hello and welcome to The Big Question on NDTV Profit. I'm Vikram, and tonight we debate what began as a constitutional exercise. That exercise has now turned into one of the most consequential economic and federal debates that India has seen in a span of decades. So today, the government has introduced a historic legislative package, the Constitution 131st Amendment Bill 2026 and the Delimitation Bill 2026. This is alongside a push to operationalize the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam. So officially, this is about fair representation and immediate women's empowerment. But in practice, it rewires political power at one level and fiscal flows across India. So here is why it matters. Delimitation proposes expanding the Lok Sabha from 543 seats, where it stands today, to as many as 850 seats. That means 815 for the states and 35 for the union territories. And this using the 2011 census, not the delayed 2026-27 census. So 1/3 of these new seats that are being proposed would be reserved for women without cutting existing constituencies, also allowing the government to target implementation by the 2029 elections. Earlier, the proposed implementation of the women's quota was much further down the road. But now, this recalibration is not politically neutral. Population-heavy northern states, they stand to gain, at least that is the premise, that they stand to gain significant representation, and the southern states, which account for roughly 35% of India's GDP, despite having just 18% of the population, they worry that this amounts to a penalty for good performance, for being able to control their population and doing well by way of contribution to GDP. So while the government and the Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal has spoken about this, and there you're seeing what he's saying, he promises a proportional 50% seat hike for all the states, just to be able to ease these fears. The fault lines, though, they remain. And remember the arithmetic of Parliament today. The NDA today has 293 seats. The INDIA bloc has 234 seats, and the others have 13. So they are well short of the 360 seats that are needed for a 2/3 majority in Parliament. Expanding the House could, of course, alter that balance, and this could stay for decades. So the fault line is clear. Should population alone decide political power, and by extension, tax devolution, infrastructure spending, and national investment priorities? Or should economic contribution and governance outcomes matter just as much? Because political power in Delhi does not just pass laws, it shapes who gets the roads, who gets the factories, who gets the capital, and who has to bear policy attention as well. So tonight, we set aside the partisan positions and we ask the question which is at the heart of India's growth model. Which brings us to the big question right now that you're seeing over there. The delimitation debate is carrying on in Parliament. Even as it is so, this delimitation entirely, does it put the focus on population instead of performance when it comes to the states, when India is deciding policy, when India is deciding investments for the future? That's the big question. Let's take it across to our panel, and joining us on the big question tonight, let me introduce you to our guests. Well, Dr.SP Sharma is with us, Chief Economist at Assocham. He's joining us from Delhi. Good to have you with us, sir. Also from Delhi, political analyst and national commentator on federalism and electoral reform, Sandeep Shastri is with us. From Mumbai, market expert Ajay Bagga, he is with us. He's going to help us assess how political risk translates into private investment decisions. And joining us from Chennai this evening is Dr. Nisha Nujumuddin. She's an economist at Crescent University, and she brings this perspective, the southern states' economic perspective, to what is clearly a national debate. So thank you all for making the time for the big question. Sandeep Shastri, to you first. Delimitation is being defended on this principle of one person, one vote. But when the southern states have 18% of the population and they contribute around 35% of GDP, my question to you is this really equal representation, or would you say this is unfair federal balance?
it's a very important question you have raised. And I'll just give you a analysis of this. If today's 543 seats in the Lok Sabha are redistributed based on the 2011 census, South India and West India would lose 25 seats to North India. I'm sorry, South India and East India would lose 25 seats to North India and West India. So, if you're going to increase the number of Lok Sabha seats and protect the number of seats that are there today, and the new seats are allotted based upon the census figures of 2011, I think the South and the East has a lot to lose, and the percentage of seats in a new Lok Sabha from these two parts of the country, the southern part of the country and eastern part of the country, will go down as compared to what is there today. Yesterday, we were given to understand that all states, their share would go up by 50%. And if that was to happen, there was no challenge at all of the South or the East losing their percentage of seats. But what is being said now, that it will be based on the 2011 census, that clearly goes against the South and the East in terms of the number of seats that we would have.
So you're saying this is going
the
to...
number of seats will increase,
yes,
but the percentage of seats in the Lok Sabha would be less for these states.
So you're saying the South stands to lose. Do you agree with that assessment? Dr. Sharma, from an economist standpoint, should political representation, which is based on population, automatically translate into how public money and investments are allocated? Is the South at a disadvantage when it comes to it?
Yes, firstly, I would like to submit that we are one of the most populous country in the world. In fact, we are the largest populous country. So at this juncture, we have to provide justice, and we have to provide opportunities to all the citizens of India. And that's why the policies right now are in the favor of every citizen. And I look forward that this decision or this connotation becomes fruitful. On the other hand, money always finds its promising growth partner. Nobody is investing for the loss of their investment. So investments are always for the fruitful results.
Yes.
So I think money will come out with its real effects. And if they feel that the investment destination is the population dominance states or otherwise the competitive states, then the money will decide the promising growth partner. So this is my connotation that,
Yeah, so investments are going to find their route. But Ajay Bagga, investors usually chase efficiency and returns. They don't chase politics. But if political power is shifting significantly to high population states, are the markets eventually going to start factoring that into investment decisions?
I don't think so. As you said, the markets try to stay away from politics. So, and also you must see that UP is one of the fastest growing states. It started from a lower base, much lower per capita, but the scale of UP and with the kind of work that they are putting in, you might have a very different scenario 10 years down the line because of the sheer scale of UP and a population of Brazil that it has. It can really make a big change. So I would say the market will look beyond this. I think it's more of some political tamasha that's going on. If you see this women's reservation bill, Vikram, 1996, 2008, the bills were brought in, they were not passed. 2023 September, when the bill was passed unanimously, these two conditions were put in, that the new census will happen, new delimitation exercise will happen, and then the women reservation will come in. What is stopping political parties today from giving 50% of the tickets to women? Nobody's asking that. India has just 74 MPs in the Lok Sabha, 13% of MPs are women. It is the 148th number in terms of women representation. We are behind Pakistan and Bangladesh. Islamic countries we are behind. So I think this is a lot of political gimmickry happening. This kind of a bill cannot get a constitutional amendment because until there is clarity that which census, Tejasvi Surya, our MP from Bangalore spoke, he said 50% is the proportionate increase.
Yeah.
Dr. Shastri is saying that's not true. I've not read the bills. I've just read the comments on it. So I would look through it. I don't think it will pass in a hurry. That nobody has the numbers unless it's unanimous.
So you're saying this is political gimmickry and it doesn't really affect investment decisions. Dr. Najumuddin, the southern states are saying that population-based delimitation punishes them for controlling fertility, for investing in health, for investing in education. Would you say that this is a legitimate economic concern that the southern states have?
But see, I'm not against delimitation, but this is not just a constitutional exercise. It's actually a battle between demography and the development perspective, I would say. As you said, yes, if you see the southern state, especially the state of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they have been doing amazingly great with regard to controlling population and also contributing to the nation's GDP over time. And now when they invested on the economic and social indicators, today, they are getting punished because the representation, if you see from 24%, it goes only to 20. So where are we standing? So seat allocation historically depended upon the population growth, no doubt about it. But today the reality is different. So the question here is, should the success of all these southern states for listening to the government be punished and the failure be rewarded? That is the scenario here. So yes. I think the southern states, why we are not, or let's say because I hail from the southern state, why we feel that, this cannot be accepted is because it is showing a threat to the federal balance. Because India is not just a democracy, it is a federal union of states. So now if population alone is going to decide the power, then fewer larger states will again dominate the parliament, and the smaller or the southern state, as you said, will be sidelined. So when that is the case, automatically the democracy without the federal balance becomes domination. And I think we need to also pervade the incentive, because more population of course equals more power. But then we also need to understand all these numbers, facts and figures what is showing. Are we actually rewarding the numbers instead of responsibility? And many times, if you see from an economic perspective, the economic contribution is also ignored. So this should not happen, right?
So you're saying that numbers cannot be rewarded. You're saying numbers should not be rewarded. You're talking about performance, and performance is something that economically as well, for the growth of a country, that is more crucial.
Exactly. So let me ask you something. See, having said that, why can't the government think about a hybrid representation model? Why can't we combine the population 50 to 60%, and why can't we combine the development indicators or contribution of the 40 to 50%? And again, when you talk about increasing seeds also, why can't we cap?
Let me take that across to Ajay Bagga. He seems to be disagreeing with you. Ajay Bagga, go ahead.
Yeah, this was discussed in the Constituent Assembly. If you look at Government of India Act of 1935, they had proportional representation. This goes against the basic structure of the Constitution. This law will not stand up if you try to put any proportional representation. That will not start up. And this has been a problem for 1952 to 1976, when the Lok Sabha seats were increased.
Indeed.
76, we pushed it ahead that we will look at it again. 2002, again, we pushed it ahead to 2026. Now 26 has come. We don't have an easy answer. Maybe we just continue the way we are.
Sandeep Shastri needs to come in. Sandeep Shastri,
I want to just make a...
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I just want to make one point. We need to have clarity whether the delimitation is based upon 50% increase of seats, or delimitation is going to be based on 2011 census.
Right.
The comments I made earlier was based on 2011 census.
So you're not in agreement. If it is 50%, is it okay?
If it is 50%, there is no problem at all, because the proportion of seats will exactly remain the same. So there is no challenge with 2000 with a 50% seat increase being projected.
So you're saying that 2011 census...
I don't think any southern state will have a challenge with that, because the proportions are being retained. The current proportions are being retained. The challenge comes in when you use the 2011 census and say you are redistributing the seats based on that population, then the South and the East will lose seats. By lose seats, I mean lose seats in percentage terms.
Right. So while we are still waiting for clarity, and this is getting debated in Parliament, Ajay Bagga, you're saying?
It won't happen. That won't happen. You can't do this. But also from what...
Sorry, you can't do what, Ajay?
You can't use 2011 census and then allocate seats and then the South gets a lesser quota. That will not happen. That is very clear. My understanding is this is a 50% pro rata increase, which is being talked about. But still, that will also not go through unless there is some political understanding.
So you're saying that 50% also is not a guarantee. You're just saying that 50%, if it does happen, if this does go through Ajay Bagga, how does that change the entire economic story of India?
No, see, since 1972, we are at this proportion. So if that proportion stays, you just increase. Because what is the problem today? There are constituencies with 40 lakh populations, as big as, say, a Switzerland or a Denmark population is sitting and represented by one MP. That is the big issue with administration.
Yes.
That you
Vikram,
need
that's
to
not correct. Vikram, that's not true. Vikram, can I correct that?
Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir.
Bagaji, when the last delimitation exercise was done, it's important to remember that the number of voters in every constituency within a state was the same. There may have been differences in the number of voters from one state to another.
Bombay population itself is larger than your northeast population.
That's Bagga, sir, because changes have happened since that delimitation happened.
Because 72,
so the larger point is the last round of delimitation. The larger point is the last round of delimitation happened with the number of seats of every state remaining the same. You redrew the boundaries of constituencies within a state.
And that is becoming problematic.
At that point of time, there was parity within a state. Since then, the size of constituencies have changed. So I think that's
Nisha, do come in. Nisha, do come in.
Last point is, what has not been changed for 54 years, can you change today?
Right. So politically, does redrawing India's electoral map using 15-year-old data, we're talking about the 2011 census, does that weaken trust in the process? Is that what you're talking about, Nisha? Are you okay with 50% if that is the process followed?
See, they are talking about increasing the total seats, but let me tell you, it's not redistribute only. Expand Lok Sabha example, let's say 50% plus. But instead of cutting the seats, let us go for expansion. So this will reduce the conflict between states. That could be a policy that can be given up. And again, talking about Rajya Sabha, why can't we strengthen the Rajya Sabha? Because that will give the states a stronger voice irrespective of population. Because India have to choose very wisely now. If you're going to follow only population, we are at the risk of division. We cannot divide the country and rule, right? And if you are going to ignore the population, yes, I do understand that we will risk inequality. So the answer is not actually, I'm not saying it's an extreme. We have to achieve a balance. So let India be governed not just by numbers. Let us be governed by fairness, foresight, and unity, because that is what the country requires today. This is a very simple thing which we need to understand.
Also, there are fiscal implications. Dr. Sharma, jump in over here. The Lok Sabha could expand from 543 to nearly 850 MPs. Has there been, in your opinion, any serious assessment of what this is going to cost the exchequer, or is the fiscal impact now just getting brushed aside even as we debate this point?
All the connotations made by our political analyst Sandeep Shastri ji and Ajay Bagga ji are very right. And I would say the 50% criteria is fair. If we are going to delimit the situation, then the 50% criteria will benefit the economy, because we have to reform our system time to time. Now we are in 2026 and we have to move forward with a lot of strength, and our economy is the fastest growing economy in the world economic system. So we have to reform the constitutional systems, and we have to reform the trajectories of the lesser growing states or the districts or the tehsils. So we have to provide the equal opportunity to every citizen of India, as I earlier said in my
So you're saying the expansion, whatever the costs are to the exchequer, are valid expenses, something that we should take on?
Yes. I totally agree that there should be this expansion. There should be this criteria, as the population size is now very large as compared with the last many decades.
Mr. Shastri seems to be disagreeing with you. Mr. Shastri, go ahead, sir.
No, I will only add a point to what Dr. Sharma ji said. Yes, the cost will increase, but I think the benefit also needs to increase. It need not automatically increase. With 850 MPs, will there be a chance for them to speak? Will Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha sit for larger number of days? If that were to happen, there is some meaning in making 850 seats. Already members of parliament don't get an opportunity to speak in the house. You increase the number, it is going to be a bigger challenge. Unless you invest in more time in the Lok Sabha sessions.
Are there going to be economic benefits at all?
I think
Ajay
these
Bagga, do
reforms
you
are
think
the
there
benefit
will
of
be
the-
economic benefits?
No, definitely. See, you can't have one person representing 40 lakh people like a European country is represented by one MP. The cost will be 40-50,000 crores more on administration and pension benefits for these marginal increase in MPs of 300 more MPs coming in. The cost is 40-50,000 crores a year just on a back of the envelope calculation. If you add MP Lards itself, that will become roughly about 4 to 5,000 crores. Their lifetime pensions, lifetime free travel, lifetime medical, giving them housing in Delhi, all that. The big issue, what Dr. Shastri said, the big issue is Lok Sabha used to meet for 135 days till about 2000. Now it meets for 55 days. And most of those days are spent in sloganeering and walkouts. So the work is not happening. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have a representative who has 4-5 lakh people that he's representing or she's representing. I shouldn't have a 40 lakh representative sitting there who has no clue about their
So
constituency.
you can have a representative, but you may not be able to get the work that is required to be done in parliament. That still stands as the biggest risk. But Dr. Najumuddin, states like Tamil Nadu, like Karnataka, even Maharashtra, they're driving industrial and services growth. If their political voice weakens as a result of the delimitation exercise, you think future government spending is going to shift away from these productivity hubs? Is that something that you're fearing as well?
Very true, because when there's a loss of political representation, the southern states, of course, they are losing their share in Lok Sabha, and they have very less say in the national policy. So now, even if their population is stable or declining, doesn't matter. When such kind of delimitation in the process it is happening, they will really have no say in any of the national priority stuffs. And with regard to the expenditure, the central funds coming or pumping also will reduce. Now, the economic contribution versus the political power gap is something you need to understand, because South India contributes 30 to 35% of India's GDP, but has a smaller population share. So economic engines will give you less political voice. So now the hands that is actually driving the economy will now lose the control of the steering wheel, I would say. That is absolutely not acceptable. And now why would the South Indian states like Tamil Nadu especially be punished for a good governance? You tell me one North Indian state. See, if you say, of course, Maharashtra is number one, followed by Tamil Nadu and Gujarat for the state GDP.
Yes.
But if you see growth rate, the southern state of Tamil Nadu ranks number one. So now for doing something great for the country, you need these states to be punished. So now how can we save such kind of South India should be one important point that has to be discussed.
Mr. Shastri, do weigh in on this. Southern states saying there are no written safeguards protecting their political share.
Exactly.
There are only verbal assurances. So in Indian politics, is that going to be enough when the stakes are as high as they are right now, when we are on this path towards being a Viksit Bharat?
Vikram, short term, we have 2 elections coming up, and that's going to be a factor that is impacted. I think beyond a shadow of doubt, unless the 50% increase formula is followed uniformly, there will be a huge political injustice done to the South by reducing their percentage of seats. If that 50% formula is followed, the percentage of seats would be the same, and there would not be much that the South would have a problem with.
Yes.
But if we are going in for anything other than that 50%, when you increase the Lok Sabha seats, I think it would be something resistant.
Ajay Bagga, if central
South.
infrastructure spending, one sec, I'll just come to you. Ajay Bagga, if central infrastructure spending starts responding more towards political strength than economic returns, then does that slow India's long-term growth? Is that a risk that we are taking on right now?
No, it won't. This is irrelevant because the contribution is very low of the MP in the local economy is not that high. I was more talking from my hat as a Democrat, as a democratic person,
Sure.
that one person, one vote was what our constituent fathers thought about. So we can't put in economic criteria and other criteria that I cannot digest it, because who am I I also want that a politician should only be doctorates, should be PhDs, should not have criminal. 38% of our MPs are with criminal records. 93% are crorepattis. So we are already in a problem. But I don't want to increase the problem by saying I'll do proportional representation. No. If it's not digestible to the South, we should not move it. We should do a 50% proportional, kick the can down the road.
Right.
Another 25 years, we would have become a more integrated nation, and we could do that. Now, also you must remember, it's how you cut the cake. Tamil Nadu has the highest outstanding government loan in the country, 9 lakh crores. After that, Maharashtra. So it's not that same. I have traveled extensively in UP. I've seen the work Yogi ji has been doing. It's going to transform. Just mark my words. Another 10 years, we will be looking at migrants going into UP rather than the other way. That is the kind of work that's happening. It is a Brazil in the making. We have to think of that. Tamil Nadu, southern states, they are very much there, but they are also there because Punjab is bearing the Pakistan terror, because Jammu Kashmir bears that terror, because you don't get all the issues that all the other states are getting. So It's not that simple.
Right.
I would again go back to one man, one woman, one vote. I think changing that, we are nobody.
Right.
Just because we are educated people or we are well-to-do, I am in the top 1% of India. I can't say my vote should be 1 lakh and my driver's vote should be 1. No,
right. This deserves a longer debate, but we're running out of time. At its core, of course, delimitation seems to be about representation. There's no taking away from that, but its consequences travel far beyond Parliament, because in India, political power does not just shape laws. It shapes capital flows, it shapes the way infrastructure is prioritized, and long-term growth paths are determined. So if population alone becomes the strongest measure of power, the risk is that we may end up blurring the link that is between performance and reward. The challenge before policymakers, therefore, as they debate this, can India correct representation imbalances without weakening the economic engines that drive national growth? I want to thank my panel, Dr.SP. Sharma, Sandeep Shastri, Ajay Bagga, Dr. Nisha Nujamuddin. Thank you very much for joining us with your perspectives tonight. It's an important discussion, and we'll keep this on. And viewers, there you have it, the big question. Of course, it is a debate that is going to be an important one for our democracy, how we shape our future, how the representation takes place. Politically, it's as important as the economic questions this raises. And that debate carries on. I'm Vikram Oza on The Big Question. Thanks for joining us on NDTV Profit.